SLC USD, the project behind the move. SLC is moving again. And after looking at the chart, there is something much more interesting here than simply asking, is SLC going up? Because SLC isn't just another token on the market. Behind Silencio is a project trying to build a decentralized data network, originally focused on environmental noise data collected through smartphones, but increasingly positioning its infrastructure around audio and voice data for AI, robotics, and other applications. The idea is actually quite interesting. Your smartphone can become a sensor. People contribute real-world data. That data can potentially become useful infrastructure for businesses, AI systems, smart cities, and other applications. And Silencio's stated network has already reached more than 2.5 million contributors across 180+ countries, according to its current project materials. So there is a real project narrative behind SLC. But here's where the chart becomes interesting. Because the market isn't simply saying, Silencio is successful. The market is showing us something much more specific. Let's start from the biggest time frame. On the monthly chart, SLC is still inside a massive bearish structure. The major seller origin is around 0.000963320. The market eventually collapsed toward approximately 0.0002838. And despite the recovery we've seen recently, that monthly bearish structure has not been completely overturned. The key monthly level I'm watching is 0.0159650. SLC has not established a monthly close above that level. So at the macro level, the seller is still standing. But now look at the weekly chart. The story starts changing. The market has already recovered through important levels, including approximately 0.0054520 and 0.007670. The previous weekly bearish structure has been damaged. That creates a very different picture from the monthly chart. And then we go down to the daily time frame. This is where the move becomes much more aggressive. From around 0.0022838, SLC developed a bullish movement that pushed through 0.000400, reclaimed 0.00054520, continued higher, and eventually reached approximately 0.000940017. That's a significant expansion from the bottom. And right now, SLC is attacking that high again. The current monthly candle is already around plus 18.64%, trading near 0.008158 at the time of this analysis. So we now have three different structural pictures. Monthly, seller still controls the macro structure. Weekly, seller has lost important internal ground. Daily, buyer has already taken control. And that distinction is extremely important because you can look at SLC and say it's bullish, and on the daily chart, that's a reasonable description. But you can also look at the monthly chart and say the macro trend is still bearish, and that can also be true. Both can exist at the same time. Now comes the interesting part. The first level I'm watching is 0.00094017. That's the recent high currently being attacked. If buyers can establish above it, the current bullish expansion has another opportunity to continue. But above that, we eventually arrive at 0.0015960. And that's a much bigger level, because that isn't simply another resistance on the chart. It's the level that can tell us whether the monthly bearish structure is finally beginning to lose its authority. We're not there yet. So I'm not going to tell you that SLC has already reversed the macro trend. It hasn't. What we can say is that the lower timeframes have already changed substantially. And that's where the Silencio project itself makes this interesting. Because the project is trying to build something much bigger than a speculative token. Silencio is attempting to create a decentralized data ecosystem where people contribute real-world data, and that data can potentially become valuable infrastructure for applications such as AI and voice technology. The ambition is interesting, the adoption metrics are interesting, and now the market is starting to produce an interesting structural development. But remember, a good project does not automatically mean a good entry. And a strong chart does not automatically prove that the fundamental story will succeed. Those are two different questions. What we're watching now is whether the market continues to validate the bullish development. First, 0.0094017, then 0.0.015960. Those two levels could tell us a lot about how far this recovery can actually go. So now I'm curious about you. Are you holding SLC because you believe in the Silencio project? Are you here because you're trading the price movement? Or did you simply discover SLC because the chart started moving? If you're already a holder, comment holder. If you're trading this move, comment trader. And if you're watching 0.009017, comment 94K. I want to see how many people are actually following this project before the next major structural decision. Because right now, SLC is sitting in a very interesting position. The project is trying to build decentralized data infrastructure. The daily chart is being controlled by buyers. The weekly chart is showing bullish structural development. But the monthly chart is still carrying the legacy of the massive bearish move. And that means the real question isn't, is SLC bullish? The better question is, how far can the bullish movement develop before the macro structure finally has to respond? For now, I'm watching 0.00094017, then 0.0015650. No prediction, no blind conviction, just watching what the market actually does. If you want more market reports like this, combining the project story with what the price structure is actually showing, subscribe to Bias Positive Digital Rise on YouTube. Because the market doesn't need us to predict it, it only needs us to pay attention when the structure changes. And SLC is changing.